This is a recording of Derold W. Husby of 2950 ABA, A-B-A Street, Southeast, Port St. Lucie, Florida, 34952. Derold's phone number, area code 407-337-0847. The recording was made on January 10th, 1989 by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center at Derold's home. This is tape number 1 of 1 tape. Right direction. See, Huz, if you could give us your name and address and your phone number, please.
Derold W. Husby, 2950 ABA, ABA Street, Port St. Lucie, Florida. Telephone number is 377-0847.
And what's your zip code?
Incidentally, the zip code is 34952.
Oh boy. Now, let's see, Derold, when did you start work at Oldsmobile?
I started September 1st, 1972.
All right.
Mr. Cutler was the personnel director at the time, Sam Donahue, the assistant personnel director. They come to my office when I was chief of police, I believe along about March of 1972, made inquiry as to whether or not I would be interested in going to work at Oldsmobile. And I indicated that I would be, but I would want to wait until after the summer months were over because we had some activities with the city that I wanted to see completed. So a decision was made. I took my physical and things, and I retired from the police department on August the 31st and went to work at Oldsmobile on September the 1st.
Didn't even get a day off.
Didn't even get a day off. Rather comical. I think I surprised Cutler when I walked in that morning, as he had probably forgotten that it was the 1st of September and the day that I was to start work. I remember he said, "My God, I wonder if they got his car cleared." That was quite an important thing, that company car, apparently. Car. So Sam, he took me over for a ride through the plants. We had plants 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the time. Showed me the garage, took me into product delivery and got a car, showed me to my office, said, "This is where you work." That is the sum total of introduction as to what my job was about at Oldsmobile, what I was supposed to do, what was expected of me. That was it.
That was all the instructions.
That's the instructions. There's the office. And
Homer had retired. Homer Purchase had already left.
Homer had left. Homer had left approximately a year ahead of this time.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the position was offered to Floyd Schwab. Floyd, he really didn't want to assume the responsibility.
But he had been the acting.
He had been the acting director.
All right.
And when I got to Oldsmobile, why, he had already indicated his desire to retire and planned to retire in October, early October.
Mm-hmm.
So Floyd and I worked together for about 5 weeks, I guess. And the last day that he was there, why, he said, "I'm sorry that I turned my time in. I wish I could change it." He says, "I'd like to stick around and work with you for a while in this job."
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't pan out, and he went on. And of course, then Glenn Freeman was promoted to captain.
Okay.
I'm sure at the time Glenn planned to spend about 4 years for retirement. And I think the following spring, March or April, an early retirement was offered. And when Glenn saw what the figures were, why, he opted to take retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a chance to work with Glenn too long. At that point, Dick Stockenauer was promoted to captain, and he replaced him. We had the active fire marshal's division. I'm trying to think of what his name was that left shortly after I got there.
Was that Nick Keeper? Was Keeper
No,
there?
no,
Keeper had gone.
Keeper.
Okay.
Dale Hoffman was
the last one.
The last one. He was
Retzloff.
Retzloff.
Right. Right.
Retzloff. He left I'm going to say by November or December of 1972.
Okay.
And Dale was promoted then to his position and still has it to this day.
Yes, I think he's still there, yes.
I think at the time that I got there, we had 145 people in plant security uniform plus 15 or 16 in UAW fire maintenance
Okay,
personnel.
yeah,
Every time we had a cutback in personnel or ran onto hard times and things, where we would cut people, close gates and close gates. You'd get a different personnel director and you'd start this all over again. And next thing you know, you could cut, and without changing the type of service we were providing, it got pretty difficult to do that.
yeah,
But I think the gate system that exists now, we really talked about and we worked on as early as 1973 for Plant 2.
mm-hmm.
I was fully expecting to see that in operation before my retirement. I think the last 4 or 5 years it was kind of dogged around, and we had one gate in when I left, automated gate in. It had not been activated, but it's a big change now, which changes the head count, the necessity of head count. But as we picked up Plant 5, we lost Plant 4 as far as security was concerned. They took over their own security, but we picked up Plant 5. Plant 3 had undergone 304, 305 had been built. There had been additions out there. There had been additions at Plant 2. All of Plant 5, and when I left, I think we had 130 people in uniform.
Mm.
We had far less, and we had probably 10 additional gates open.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 people on the night shift at Plant 4 for a long time, and two on each shift. That was it. And when GM Parts Division took over out there, they started with 28 people. A little different. And of course, we had gone through the expansion out there too, because that plant's a large plant. But it was interesting. It seems though that every time you get a new boss, when I'd say we got to economize, we got to cut, and my gosh, I can remember back when we used to have a man standing protecting the parking space for, I can't think of his name now, and product engineering.
Oh, you mean inside the garage?
It would be right outside the door, and it was still outside the gate.
Okay,
Building 64 at that time was still outside the gate.
Yeah.
And we had lots of manpower. When I first got there, it would be nothing to have 10 people in the parking lots alone in the morning.
Doing what?
Directing traffic in, making sure they got in the right parking lot, didn't park in the wrong parking, unauthorized parking lots. And we, at that time, issued parking permits to every car.
Mm-hmm.
We had the license number and the registered owner and the parking lots. We patrolled the parking lots, we wrote tickets, and a far cry from today. I think it was kind of a waste of manpower and everything, but that was custom.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to drop a lot of that stuff when manpower became expensive and wanted to do some economizing.
Who were some of the other bosses you had, Sam, other than Sam?
Well, I had Sam, and I had Lou Rebick.
Okay.
And that's all that I had.
So those were the only 2 that you had?
The 2 that I had.
Okay.
Lou was still there when I left, and he transferred out shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's end of personnel, that was pretty stable. I mean, Sam kept that for many years.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the house, on the staff side of the house, you might say, that changed quite frequently because there was a guy from Chevrolet that was in there for a while, and there was 4 or 5 different people that was in that job.
Yeah.
And kind of I think it was where the corporation wanted to shuffle people around from division to division.
Yeah.
because that was one thing that, the corporate personnel director maintained that they would never promote anyone who had not been serving in at least 3 different divisions.
Oh, I see.
He told us this in a meeting one day, and Steve Fuller.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So we saw a lot of change. Well, like Lewandowski
Yeah.
was in
Yeah.
and was out.
Yeah.
You saw it in the finance department. You
Yeah.
saw it in a lot of the other departments.
How did Sam manage the bunch? How did he manage your organization?
Sam showed me my office. And the only time that Sam would ever even make inquiry is if somebody put some heat on him for something.
Okay.
And he would come to me for a quick resolution and resolve the thing. He might get all excited once in a while. He was a good boss. Sam was a good boss. And I would have to say that he never interfered with me in any way. Just no direction either, which was fine. Apparently I was doing all right, or something would have been said.
Did you have departmental get-togethers with Sam and other folks in the?
Very much after Lewandowski got there.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat when Cutler was there, but when Lewandowski was there, we had staff meetings, every week. We had a lot of breakfast meetings. We had a lot of special projects we worked on. That man could find more things to keep a person busy. And we did. We had not uncommon at all for a couple of times a month to go out at 7 o'clock in the morning for breakfast and make presentations and be back to work by 9:30.
Did the job focus then change or during those?
No, not the job focus, because I think that we were unique. Plant security was unique in that we had auditing from the corporation. We had guidelines, we had policy established by the corporation, and from my standpoint, I tried to live by that policy because we were audited.
Yeah.
And audited very heavily, really, right down to the keys and everything else.
Sure.
We were audited.
Yeah.
Well, that was extremely important to me, less important to, say, the personnel director. He could care less about that. We're not the corporation, we're Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
We'll do it our way. One of the best guys that I ever worked with was Stumpfig, Al Stumpfig,
Our auditor.
auditor, and of course his replacement is my favorite auditor. That's what I always used to say to him.
Hassler. Phil Hassler.
Phil Hassler. They would watch the corporate auditing very closely, and we would have to reply. Very difficult to reply in total against what the corporation is recommending because Oldsmobile wanted it. An example of that was the loaning of tools.
Okay.
Corporation dead set against it. Oldsmobile says we've done it, we're going to continue. I think we come up with a good, reasonable control over it. And I think that it was an asset to all concerned to have that. Another thing that the corporation was dead set against was salvage sales.
Yeah.
And I could see a tremendous amount of things going on there that should not have been going on. And that eventually was phased out.
That went away.
Yes, that was phased out. I was quite surprised when corporation went ahead with the development of these card access gates. We visited, you worked on that too. We visited Chrysler and saw what kind of an operation they had and various other plants, and like one in Indiana and things. And I think myself that gave you better security in an industrial site than man gates. I don't think that there was the personal attention given by the people. And those cards, if they were to be utilized to their utmost, they could control everything really, from the time clocks to the parking lots and everything. And I thought it was very good, but it surprised me when a corporation would do that.
What were the problems with man gates?
Man gates, boredom, extreme boredom, familiarity with the employees and everything. Just lack of job interest. There's no challenge there.
Didn't you rotated guys through that though?
Oh,
Didn't you?
yes, we rotated them every 2 hours, but
Uh-huh.
it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just plain boredom.
Yeah.
It would drive me crazy to sit there in a gatehouse for 2 hours and then go to another gatehouse, take a coffee break or something, go to another gatehouse for another 2 hours, just keep rotating like that.
Mhm.
I'd want something busier. Truck gates, that's a little different. Truck gates and vehicle gates, I think a better job was done, but
There's some activity there.
little activity, yeah.
Mhm.
And you just keep after the people and after them to pay attention. It gets more supportive. And overly worked. We had a gate at Birch Street at one time
Sure.
that had pedestrians, had automobile gate.
Yeah.
Some of the production cars
Production
went
cars.
in and out,
Yeah.
and we had 3 television monitors there. Now, there's no way that one person could do a job like that.
Yeah.
The television monitors, when I got there, were all in the gatehouse,
Oh my.
and I phased them out. They were very expensive, and the maintenance was very expensive.
Yeah.
And the years that we had them, that I was there, I can never remember of one single incident those television cameras picked up, other than the larceny of a desk at a building 70.
Stealing a desk?
A desk out of building 70 and the old grocery store at William and Logan Street. A guy loaded it in the back end of his pickup truck there. And we gave that credit to the video camera, but it really wasn't.
Pretty big object.
Now they have a lot of television, of course, at the gates and things. And
Yes.
the way that the setup is, why it's much better.
Mhm.
Television is good if it's installed properly. And
Mhm.
some of the things I think that go back and look at, even before I was there, was when the parking on the streets.
Yeah.
All the residential areas, even William Street and all the courts and Butler and all the streets there, we had a lot of parking, and from the police end of it, we had lots of headaches there.
Yeah.
And it was, for many, many years, had a situation there where something would happen where they would need, for building or something at Oldsmobile, and they would need a little relaxing of parking regulations on the street. Some of the guys on the 3-wheelers would go through and they'd chalk their cars. 2 hours later, come back and the no parking signs would be gone. Somebody comes through and remove them all, you know. But looking back from the days of the old Rock Forge, it was where Building 150 is. There's residential up there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of residential, and we made many calls to the backyard of Oldsmobile, and one house particularly, right there up there by where the drop forge was. Another thing in that area that bugged me was the acquisition of residential property. We boarded it up.
Yep.
I had a list and I had keys to what houses we could lock. But that always bothered me because I was afraid that some derelict would get a hold of a kid or something, and it would be a real bad bit of publicity for Oldsmobile. And we had blocks and blocks of those houses.
Yeah. Did we have any of those kinds of difficulties?
We never had a difficulty.
We were fortunate.
I would go through them quite frequently myself, really. And there was houses in there where the stairwells were completely gone. The steps were completely gone.
You could just fall into the
You could
basement.
fall right into the basement. And it was a period of time that I was very concerned. I was certainly glad to see them come down. And I will never forget the day that Brown Brothers was tearing some of those houses down. And of course, I carried a clipboard with all the houses on there, the addresses. And I went up to that foreman and I said, "Friend, I don't want to be the one to tell you, but you're tearing down the wrong house."
Oh, my Lord.
And he said, "You know, there's always some smart ass that comes along and says that." And I says, "Yes, looky here. I don't have that house. Like 1417 West Main or some such thing." And he says, "Well, you're all wrong." He says, I said, "No." I said, "I'm not wrong." I said, "This house here," and I pulled some shrubs across from the front steps, entranceway there, and there was the house number. And I didn't have that house number on our list.
Yeah.
It was boarded up, exactly like Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
And it belonged to one of the local residents. And I don't think that that house was down 2 hours before he and an attorney were standing on the sidewalk. The poor guy is dead today.
Mhm.
And I look back and I say, he watched that house being torn down.
You probably did. He stood right across the street and watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Brown got himself in hot water on that one.
I never did find out what
Yeah.
ever happened on it, but
Yeah.
I don't want to comment
No,
as
I know.
to who owned the house,
Right.
but I knew the individual,
Yeah.
well. And of course, then we had the freeway go through there too. That was
Yep.
a period of time, and that went through really about the time of civil disorders and things in the city.
Yes.
And there was a lot of activity in that general area, particularly on, well, St. Joe's, where most of it
Between
started.
St. Joe and Maine,
Originally it started at St. Joe, and then it went north on up into Kalamazoo and
Mhm.
Allegan and
Mhm.
Kalamazoo and Logan, in that area. I saw an awful lot of change. I was surprised. I think one of the greatest surprises I ever had is when they tore down the R.E. Olds mansion without moving it.
Yeah.
I always felt that that was a mistake.
Probably was in retrospect.
Yeah, the Scott house, the Scotts,
We did say that, yeah.
No, the Scotts tore theirs down
okay.
themselves.
I'm thinking of the Smart Center house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was surprised when some local effort wasn't made to save the
Mhm.
Olds mansion. That was quite a home right
Yes, it
there.
was.
Uh,
Did we ever have any, what I call disturbances in the plant house that we had to fight with? so to
no. Homer was there during that period of time, and Homer was in my office on 2, 3 different occasions, kind of, catching what the
Mhm.
situation was in the community and things. And they did have a lot of gear. They had better riot gear really at Oldsmobile than we had in the city.
speak? Was it?
Yes. And there was times in which they doubled and tripled guards. There was times
Yeah.
that they put people on the roofs when we would have some disturbances because of the afraid of fire bombs and
Okay.
things.
This
But
would
there
be
was-
like during a strike or something?
No,
or
this would be during civil disturbances.
Civil disturbances, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the strikes were concerned, no.
Mhm.
I can never remember of anything of any significance during a strike.
Mhm.
Uh, when I was with the city, I know that we anticipated little problems around the engineering building that was still outside the fence line at the time. And Mayor and I went over to the Union Hall. Because we, again, there was student
Mhm.
disruptions and things. And I said, we really don't need problems down there. And the individual we talked with at the Union Hall says, you be down there and ask for so-and-so and visit with him. And we went down there to ask for so-and-so, and they said, he just left for Flint and he won't be back. Somebody got the word, and we had no problems.
Mhm.
That was one good thing.
Mhm.
Atlas Forge, we had some problems.
Mhm.
Motor Wheel, we had lots of problems,
Mhm.
but never problems at Oldsmobile.
Mhm.
A good relationship there, I guess. It's some of the projects that I remember that were complete failures was that containerized shipping for cars,
Stack pack.
stack pack.
Right. Ed
I-
Cole's dream.
I remember they came in during Christmas holidays. And I worked during the Christmas holidays, laid cement, concrete, and everything, got ready. They bought flat cars, they made containers. I think one day they got 35 cars loaded, and that was the best they ever did.
Yep.
That was quite a fiasco. That was an expensive one. It
Had
to
that big
be.
old crane out there.
That was leased. Though.
Yeah, but that was sitting there and used to hoist them up and over.
The disappointing project, I think, to me, from the financial end, was the Plant 2 steel operation. I'd like to see that go.
Mm-hmm.
It went off and on, but finally junked out.
Yeah, it never was really viable.
Probably didn't have enough junk generated to
Yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah.
As far as plant security was concerned, there was little change other than there was things that we were able to accomplish while I was there, and At one time I had, I think about 45 EMTs in that department,
Which are what?
emergency medical technicians.
Okay.
And I wanted to go on for additional training for some of those people and have
Paramedic?
paramedics.
Uh-huh.
Bought an ambulance, new one just before I left. I don't think it was ever put in service. That's change in people.
Mm-hmm.
Can never understand that because one doctor was all in favor of it. And a junior doctor comes along and scuttles the whole thing,
Mhm.
in the personnel director.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's professional jealousy or what, but a lot of things, that department was held back from doing a lot of things that they could have done, and they had the ability to do. But people just wouldn't let them do it.
What did we use the EMT folks for?
First aid runs within the plant.
Was that kind of an occurrence that the plant protection guys had to get involved with?
Well, we had first aid. See, we had the ambulance. There was an ambulance there from way back.
Yeah, right.
And as a matter of fact, that 98 ambulance should be still around. That should be preserved
Mm-hmm.
because that was the last of them. We ran ambulances there for since day one, I guess, and upgraded the training because those people had 140 hours of training or something like that.
Was there a lot of use of those individuals?
There was quite a bit.
Mhm.
There was quite a bit, and it got away as the medical field changed there. The doctors changed. They went more then to the city, and there was several instances where I was there where the city come out to Plant 3
Oh, I see.
and Plant 2,
Yeah.
and that would really be a no-no. I can't imagine the city even doing that because there was days that I know that they would never do that. You had another township out there that would have taken it, but just from a liability standpoint, I can't see the city going out there. Where I felt that given the opportunity, we could have provided a better service for the employees and probably at less money in the long run. That disappointed me, really did. That was a first-class ambulance. That had everything that a highway ambulance would have. Life-saving
Where
ambulance.
did we used to keep that?
Well, we used to keep it there in the fire barn, the old one.
Right
That
across
new
the-
one, that new one, we kept it in there. We
Yeah.
had to change. We bought one, and we made that larger. The door opened at the old fire station. Well, then when we got the new one, we kept the new one there, and we sent the old one over to Plant 2.
Okay.
And that fire barn over there, and the 98 then, the old 98 went into mothball someplace.
Yeah. See, we used to have did we do a lot of work with fire brigade still?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes. That was another thing in fire brigade. I think Oldsmobile probably had one of the best records of any GM plant. I know they had the best record of any GM plant of its size and of its complexity, the paint and all the chemicals and stuff. They had a real good operation in that. Corporation, they were always after us to have whistles and bells and things like that, vacate the properties, and that, again, part of the auditing.
Yeah.
But they never pressed us on that because all they would have to do is take a look at our record and see, the worst, I think probably the worst fire, I was not there at the paint shop, but I think probably the most costly fire we had was a Plant 3 generating room fire. That may have been one. The Plant 1 building right down by the river on the roof.
Not the assembly side. Was it not the assembly plant, was it?
No, east.
The engine plant?
Yeah, east of the engine plant, right next to the river.
Yeah, okay, that's building 22.
22. Had a penthouse fire there, and a fire we went through it on that one. That turned out to be a rather expensive one. I don't think we ever lost production while I was there. I don't believe we ever lost production with a fire. And that's something that was primary. People think of security. To me, that fire was more important than anything else.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
miss stuff, stuff could go out the gate
Yeah.
and you'd still be building cars, but a fire could put you out of business.
Shut you right down.
Yeah. But I don't ever remember of losing. We may have lost a production day or so somewhere along the line, but I know we never lost 2 days of production for a fire. That's very unusual for a plant that size.
Yeah. Sure had a lot of stuff going on there.
Oh boy.
What about any what I'll call people always have a habit of borrowing things that they shouldn't borrow permanently, so to speak. Any of those? You mentioned the desk thing that somebody's tried to hoist, but did our employees do peculiar things?
But when it comes to theft, I never knew what was being stolen out of the plant. They could have interim audits and things, and they say, well, we're short of this and short of that and everything, and I didn't put too much to that. Other GM plants had carloads of stuff and truckloads of stuff stolen. Fortunately, at Oldsmobile, we didn't. Anytime you've got people, you're going to have theft. And I think during the course of the period that I was there, I saw to it that at least right off the bat, I could remember 3 of my employees that resigned on the spot because they were involved in theft. Some of it was humorous. I recall superintendent coming in one day and saying, I was to wedding reception the other night, and somebody said that plant security is stealing tires. And said I didn't say anything to the guy. So asked me, he said, why don't you go out and talk to him? So Bob Stanley and I went out and talked to this man. He was a businessman.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yes, that's true. He said, I sell tires. It's part of my business. And he said, I had a guy in here about ready to sell him a set of tires, and he didn't buy them. He bought them from the plant security guy. And I said, thanks much. We'll do some checking. So we went to this guy, and this was another businessman that had bought a set of tires. And got the state police involved in it. Sent this employee on his way home one morning out to Post 11 there, and they did a little interviewing. And come to find out, well, he had a set of tires on his car. He had a set of tires on the businessman's car. And he sold the guy who originally said that he sold tires.
Yeah.
His brother worked for him, and his brother bought a set of tires also from the plant security guy. Kicking it around, we really didn't have a good case. And we got a resignation out of the individual with the understanding within 5 days he would bring the 3 sets of tires back. Now, how he got them tires from the businessman's brother, and his own car, I don't know. He certainly had to replace them. Funny thing, letting a person like that resign, I saw him at a police function shortly thereafter, and he was working in a bank.
Thank
Yes.
gracious, that's worse.
I remember when I was on the police department, we had a call from Flint. A Lansing resident selling tires in Flint. And they had a pickup truck. So they arrested the man over there, confiscated the tires, and found out that the tires did, in fact, come from Lansing, out of a boxcar. The railroad absolutely refused to accept the fact that it was their tires. Oldsmobile would not say that it was their tires. We had 37 stolen tires and no victim.
No claimer, huh?
Copped a plea on this guy over at Flint on a misdemeanor charge. Took the tires back to Lansing, and the Lansing Police Department had 37 new tires.
For their road cars.
We put them on our road cars. They call one time, humorous, a man come in from Plant 2. He said, I bought a set of tires from the employees, $100. And he said, I decided I wanted another set. And then he said, for my other car, he said, I got cold feet. And, he said, I already told him that I would take a set. So I went to tell him I didn't want him, and he said, hey, you're making a mistake. He says, I want to get out of this business, but I'll sell you my franchise. He says, what do you mean your franchise? He says, you give me $100 and I'll tell you all about how this thing operates. And he says, you can get tires and you can sell tires for a while. So the guy came over and talked to me, and I said, fine, here's $100. You see that man gets that $100 and you get the franchise, get the whole thing set up. So he did. And I got a hold of the state police and explained it to them what was going on, because doing with state police, you didn't know something was going on in Lansing, Ingham County, or Eaton County, or even Clinton County, as far as that's concerned. So they said, sure, we'll wire this guy, and we'll even get the van. And I said, all right, I'll have them order 24 tires. So the guy ordered 24 tires. He was to pick him up in the West Side subdivision. He backed right up to the front door of the man's house, and the railroad security guy and two of them in uniform come out and loaded the 24 tires. The lieutenant, the entire security of Grand Trunk Railroad was released that brought a guy in from Chicago to take over.
Isn't that something?
That guy bought a franchise for $100. It's
So
funny.
they were just breaking the seals on the cars and climbing in, huh?
Climbing in. And then there was a lot of times that we would go to material handling and say, you got a car coming in, do a physical count of tires, physical count of a lot of things, because you never knew. I went to, I sent Bob Stanley, I think Detroit one time with a pickup truck. Picked up a half a gun full of radios.
So that was another one.
That's where dunnage and crap would go in on pallets or on guns and stuff. And the forklift would pick it up and send it back or ship it off someplace else, and it would arrive someplace, and the stock left in it.
Yeah.
We had a funny one in Detroit. Went down there one time. I had a man who was selling to a foundry new parts, and I traced the parts to Oldsmobile and Pontiac. What they were dog bones. It was a stamping they made at Plant 3, and it looked like a dog bone. It was for the bumper, between the aluminum and steel and the bumper. And they sent them to Detroit for plating. A real nice little plating shop down there, and we had the license number of the truck, the registration of the truck of the guy who was selling it. So I talked Stumpfig into giving me one of his people. We would go down and we'd pull a surprise audit, see how much this guy had. This is a real nice shop. He was going 24 hours a day in this shop, and there was 3 or 4 of them right in a row, different kinds of shop, and they shared forklifts between the 2 or 3 plants. I had a female that was a afternoon supervisor, and her husband was the guy with the truck. When we were coming in, this is hard to believe. Brooks, I think was his name, out of finance. We were coming into Detroit. Seems to be a 7-mile road, don't make a difference, whatever it was. And I said to him, there's the truck we're looking for right there, right in front of us. Had 3 guys in it. And I said, my briefcase is license number. I know that's it. Sure enough, we're following this truck.
You got right behind him.
Yeah, just driving. We were going to this plant. See? And so I said, let's follow him, see where he goes. Well, he was going in the right direction with the plant, but then he got off into a residential area, and he parked his truck in a vacant lot, but it was not next to the house that this truck was registered. But we saw that the street was just the next one down.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a corner house, but the garage to the house was on the other street. House face one. So I said, I wonder what he's got in that garage. And I pulled into the alley, come around to where the back door to the garage was, a walk-in door, it had window in it. And I got out to look in, and I couldn't see a thing. It was all locked off. But there was another garage right there, and it had a 1-piece garage door. And you could see where the double lot bucket hit that door. He really, I says, look at that, that's double lot luck, that's what that is, you know. This guy was scared to death. He wanted to get out of there so bad.
Yeah.
We got out, went out of there, went down to the plant. We pulled our audit. What was going on there was they were picking up a gon full of parts, putting them on his truck.
Yeah.
And he'd take them out and sell them for scrap.
Oh,
But they went back over, and
gee.
that man paid. He paid quite a sum for missing parts that they had. So yeah, there was a lot of theft,
A lot of
a lot
those
of
odd-
interesting
odd
things.
things like that.
The funniest one, you really want to hear a funny one?
Sure, let's hear the best one.
Christmas vacation. I always put out 100% of the cars in and out of the plant would be checked, leaving the plant.
Okay.
Make no mistake. We had just received a whole bunch of personal computers. And in the building that you worked,
Mm-hmm.
there was a computer still in the box. We had an employee, not an Oldsmobile employee, a contract employee who was working in building 40. And during the Christmas holiday, why he had reason to come to work. And he knew where they kept the keys to the company car.
I see.
So he loaded part of the computer in the trunk of the car and drove out. He drove home and left it. He came back. He got the rest of the computer, drove home, come back. At the end of Christmas vacation, he was going to bring the computer back, and he tried. But then something had happened to the company cars. He couldn't get the thing back in. He couldn't get a car out to get it to bring the computer back.
Okay.
So as long as he had it, he just kept it. It went on for probably, now we got a report, got
Yeah.
a stolen computer.
Computer missing,
That
yeah.
computer is
Yeah.
not stolen. Somebody else
Yeah.
just got that. That computer is not stolen. No way. Bob Stanley was, no, it was, Bob had retired. It was, the investigator there anyway.
Wedge?
No,
Not your guy.
No. Oh, yeah, my guy,
Okay.
trying to think of his name. I had this on the police department. I hired him.
That's okay.
Anyway,
Anyhow.
got a call from a woman that no good husband of mine has been stealing. And so he was telling me, and I said, well, maybe I ought to go with you. We went out to the house. She was a big gal. She was about 9 months pregnant at the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And he was a wizard at the computer. And she says, the computer's downstairs. Come to find out, he had sold part of that computer to one of our employees at Plant 3 for $1,500 and a trade-in. So we went to Plant 3. Before we went to that guy, we went to Plant 3 and we got that employee and we got our computer back. And he said, we'll get yours back here. I don't know about $1,500, but we're going to get that other part that you swapped him off. So we went to the house, and sure enough, here was the rest of the computer. The computer that the guy from Plant 3 had traded in, and we got it back and got it back into Building 40. This guy had learned his computer, his whole computer background was from one of the prisons in California. So he got the computer out through a company card. And wasn't even an employee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I say sometimes, machines are better than people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because my people certainly should have found that.
But the guy waved as he went through
Oh,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
That's familiarity again.
Yeah.
We had a lot of that. I had some things there that only 2 or 3 people knew about. I bought a piece of equipment one time, and Sam knew about it. And Gordon Miller, was an investigator. Well, Bob Stanley, Bob had it too. And bought that piece of equipment. The first time we set it up, we caught a thief. The first time, and that was a salaried employee too.
What kind of a thing was this then?
I had a very good disguised time-lapse recorder.
Oh, okay.
And we disguised the installation, and matter of fact, one of my people were tripped up with it.
Mhm.
But we'd never say anything, we'd put it in various places, and just let it run.
Just let it run, yeah.
And we'd monitor it then, and we had pretty good success with that.
Mhm.
We had one of my people there, and I don't think we ever had a file cabinet jimmied after that. Really.
Took care of
funny,
that, huh?
really, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and this was a long-term employee.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people are tempted.
And you're in a position there where, you know, you have keys
Oh,
to
everything.
everything.
Yeah. See, the key guy you had there, the key man in the lock shop, was that a thing that always existed to the best of your knowledge, the lock shop?
Yes, that's very common in all of GM plants to have their own locksmith.
Okay.
Normally, in a smaller plant, it would be a supervisor, very limited
Mm-hmm.
in the amount of work that they would do. Of course, we record and set up everything there. And we had two locksmiths,
Mm-hmm.
really. But if you ever stopped, I wouldn't even hazard a guess, but I'm gonna say there's 1 million locks in that plant.
Oh, boy, got it, yeah. Julian's out there.
And we had it set up from series so that, you know, you could have submasters and sub-submasters and then go on up to the great grandmaster.
There were some keys that fit everything, weren't there?
Everything, but there was a few things that we took off a grandmaster if we didn't need it.
Yeah,
If it had theft items like radio
yeah,
crypts or guns, we
Yeah.
would lock them with an unmastered set of,
Mhm.
of locks and things like that. But basically, every building, every office was keyed into the grandmaster.
Mhm.
There was exceptions, I'm sure. Engineering, there was one room in engineering. The appearance and analysis room in building 66 had an unmastered lock at one time
Oh,
until
my goodness,
somebody couldn't get in there that wanted to get in there. And
got a little irked,
yep,
yeah,
that was changed.
yeah.
That was another thing that was audited by General Motors
Was it?
Corporation. Yeah, it was surprising. One superintendent was transferred out, and the bigger or the higher the person in the hierarchy, the more difficulty we had in getting their keys because they were gone just
Yeah.
overnight
Yeah.
and lots of different. But this one guy transferred to an allied division, automobile, and I saw him at least 3 times. Personally asked him for his grandmaster key. And he said, I might come back sometime. You're not going to get it. And every time GM would come through and make an audit,
There you
that
go.
guy's name would appear, and I'd say, Sam, I tried. Let's try.
Yeah.
Sam would try. Never
Yeah.
got that key back.
Well, it'll be lost. What do you think was perhaps the most difficult situation you had during the period that you were there, Huz?
I don't know, you know, all the big problems have kind of been resolved. I don't think I really had any big problems. The big problems, they develop so fast and resolve so fast.
Mhm.
Uh,
Came and went.
yeah, and I even found out with the city, a big problem got immediate attention and was taken care of.
Mhm.
It was over with. It's the small ones that just kept going, the
Kind of
people
festered.
problems. Yes,
Yeah.
it kept going.
See, you had a separate union, didn't you, for your plant protection
Yes, it
people?
was United Plant Guard Workers of America.
Okay. Did that cause any unique problems?
It caused problems from scheduling, and you can't imagine the work rights that those people had and the various pay
Uh-huh.
things that they had going through.
Yeah.
And we would equalize hours, overtime hours, to the 10th of an hour,
Oh, my gracious.
right to the 10th of an hour. Now that's hard to believe. We had people who worked, I had one employee, he was in his mid-60s, just before retirement at the time, that worked 1,400 and some hours overtime in 1 year.
That's almost a whole year.
Yes. Now, you could force a person to work overtime.
Okay.
There was other people who worked the system to the point where here's a man who worked 1,400 hours overtime, and another person worked 2.5, 3 hours overtime for a year, a whole year. And this, I could never understand union for this reason. I recall one morning, one of our people who worked every hour of overtime he was ever asked to work, his absenteeism was he was perfect. He was always there on the job, and he had something going one morning, and he had to make it at 8 o'clock in the morning when they got out. And the sergeant says, "Sorry, you're forced for overtime." And here's a guy that walked out the door laughing like all get out, who hadn't worked an hour overtime that year.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I could never understand why you couldn't say, go on about your business and do it, and you stay.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I did that for weddings.
Yeah.
Sometimes like one guy's daughter was getting married. She got to work overtime. He'd take it off and go get married, and go to the wedding. I get a grievance. Somebody else.
Yeah.
I even had New Year's Eve, two guys living together. Now, divorced.
Yeah.
They were living together, and one was called for overtime, and he was sick, couldn't make it, supposedly.
Yeah.
And the next guy on the line was his bunkmate.
Ah, yes.
So he got New Year's Eve off, and
This guy had to
his
work.
buddy had to work,
Uh-huh.
living together, same place.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
very, very, very discouraging from that
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
You couldn't choose a person for a job.
Yeah.
Some people may be much more interested in a facet. You couldn't
Sure.
do that.
Yeah.
Tied your hands.
Mhm.
Tied your hands.
Mhm. During strike times, did your people get go on strike, so to speak?
Oh
or-
no! They had a no strike contract.
All right.
No, they would have been fired. They knew that.
All right.
The closest I ever come to that was Long's. We had a new car showing out to Long's,
Mhm.
and some of the trade unions were picketing.
Oh, yes, because that was a
Long's.
non-union.
Yeah, non-union job.
construction. Yeah.
Some of them were picketing, and we were working the grounds out there for the new car show. And the chairman of the somebody raised a question: should we refuse to work because of the picketing?
Yeah.
The chairman, our chairman, says, "Yeah, don't do a thing." I was out of town. It was on a weekend. I was out of town, and sergeant called Sam, and I think Sam went out there, and the chairman was fired right on the spot, and went back to work. And that chairman wound up being one of the nicest employees after that year in Nigeria.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And really a good,
Yeah.
he was a good employee.
Yeah.
He just got carried away, and boy, let me tell you, it made a Christian out of him. Nice guy, and I think the world of him. Nice fella, and he just was a little confused for a few minutes there.
Yeah.
But no, we had no problems like that at all.
What do you think maybe was the most significant thing that happened during all that time?
I think the gate system, really.
Okay,
And
the gate system.
I'd take a lot of credit for that gate system, even if it didn't materialize when I was there completed.
Yeah.
It was committed, and it was under construction and everything, and I would like to have worked under that for a while
Yeah.
to see how that would work. I think one of the best individual projects that I saw there was the new shipping, automobile shipping.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
The method there,
Yeah.
and the design of the building and everything. We were very vulnerable from theft and things from that area. And this was a big improvement there, and I think you'd have to give my people credit, because I don't think they'd misship a car more than once or twice a year,
Mhm.
even under the old system that we used. And it could happen.
Yeah. Did we ever lose a car?
Yes, we never lost one that we didn't find. We had one stolen out of the plant one night that was torched out south of Holt.
Okay.
And I know.
What they do, run it through the gate or something?
They must have,
Yeah.
and I can just see somebody working overtime. It was, we were working a lot of overtime.
Yeah.
Missed the ride home and was mad and
Couldn't get
just
out.
couldn't get out. They just
Yeah.
took a car and they
Yeah.
torched it.
Yeah.
We lost, well, we had them lost, but not for very long.
Yeah.
The one that we had lost the longest was a car that was misshipped.
Oh,
And I knew that that car had to be misshipped. And, from the history card and everything. And I got with Al Stumpfig, I think it was, or Phil, I don't remember who was the auditor at the time, and I asked that they audit all the zone areas.
mhm.
And, just a day or two,
Oh,
come
yeah.
back, the car wasn't there and everything. I said, now look, I want them to go back over again physically.
Yeah.
And look at these cars,
Yeah.
because they're auditing on paper.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they
Yeah.
go out and
The car should
physically
be
take a
there.
look. That car was about, 3 months into the new model production
Yeah.
when that car showed up at one of the zone offices, 0 mileage on it, so
Yeah.
it had been sitting there.
Yeah.
It was a misshipped deal,
Yeah.
and somebody
Didn't recognize
didn't
it.
recognize it.
That really wasn't a lost car per se. It
No.
just, yeah.
We had the chains cut one night, and a brand new white '98 Regency stolen. And about 3 days later, I picked it up down 10th Precinct in Detroit.
Huh.
They actually cut the chain
They did on the gate.
on the gate, and we
Yeah.
didn't. It's a job to, if you miss a car, they all look alike.
Oh, sure.
License
Yeah.
plates, you gotta go by VIN numbers and
Yeah.
everything, but this one here, that white one, was toward the end of production. It was scheduled to go to Arizona, Phoenix. And it was parked right outside of building 150, and the next morning it was gone.
Yeah.
And Bob Stanley and I went down to 10th Precinct to pick that car
Was it all smashed on?
up. Quite a bit of damage on it.
Yeah.
It had not been stripped.
Yeah.
It was just, banged in here,
Yeah.
banged in there.
Yeah.
Stunk so bad. That,
Oh, my gracious.
marijuana and crap on the
Oh.
inside. It was a mess. They got the individuals who.
Did they?
Yes.
Oh, great.
And that was, I think, the third time that they had been arrested in 6 months. One with a new Cadillac out of a Cadillac motor company. We were lucky, I think, in floods at the main plant.
Oh, yeah. Remember a few of those?
Yes. I think building 22 was, you got it there. Well, it didn't really get inside it.
No. Kind of down in the basement.
I think that job gave me more respect for fire and chemicals and explosions, and I will never forget that one out by the railroad track, the propane explosion we had. Building a small building, a pit, reinforced concrete. It was in March.
This was at Plant One?
Plant one, and out there by the silos,
Oh, yeah.
and had several compartments in the lower basement section of it, and I think we about 18 inches double reinforced concrete, roof and all,
Yeah.
and put a salamander in the bottom of it.
A
Covered
heater.
the heater and
Yeah.
covered the top with tarps and things so the cement would cure slower,
Right.
or keep from freezing. And that salamander apparently leaked, and she blew a hole right out of the top going into the building. Remember that?
I don't even remember that.
Oh, that was.
Busted that concrete
Oh,
right
yes.
up, huh?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. Give you a lot of respect for propane.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
I would be concerned with some of the subsoil around that plant, the main plant. Very concerned.
Well, it's been used a long time.
Yes. We put foam in more than one pit just to dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you retire, House?
I retired July 1, 1985.
85. Uh-huh.
We sold our house in Lansing. Following year, we sold our cottage. We built here.
Well,
Our children are still there. We got a little interest in the golf course up there
Yeah.
at Mishway, so we make sure we get back there with the kids anyway a couple times a year. We were up for 2 months and a half last summer, and then we took a quick flight for a week, 10 days in September.
Yeah.
And we might do that most any time, not during the snowy weather.
Yeah. Did you enjoy your stay at Olds?
very much. I look back on the style of living that we're enjoying today. I would have to thank General Motors for that,
Mhm.
very much so. We're found in the position, we're in a position that we can do just about
Sure.
everything we
Oh,
want.
yeah.
We're not extravagant people, but we got everything we ever wanted. A
Sure.
brand new car out there. I just
Yeah.
bought it, picked up in '98 last
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Well,
And I still got 77 moles out there, Jim.
Do ya?
It's got 35,000
oh
miles
my
on it.
goodness, almost new. Yeah,
It was due when I bought it
yeah.
in 1985.
Yeah.
In
Oh, in 1985,
It
a
was.
77?
24 miles on it. That was the last one. I've had that. That's my golf car, my fishing car.
Yeah,
It's got 35,000 miles and there is no scratch on it.
that's great. That's great. Well, what do you think? Do you think we pretty well covered your,
I think so.
Your
I'm
time there?
going to say that the people that I work with in security,
uh-huh,
for some reason, that type of work draws some very talented people in a lot of disciplines other than security.
mm-hmm,
And I think you find that true in the police department too, where a tremendous amount of ability, and it's just not up and above the job. let's put it that way.
mm-hmm.
Because you had people that could do anything in there. You had mechanics, you had electricians, you had plumbers, you had
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
All
yeah.
of the trades were
Yeah.
welcome. And we had some financial